Hello again, guys, and welcome back to another Typhoon H video. In recent videos, I think I talked about doing a video that pertained to both the Typhoon H 480 as well as the Typhoon H Plus. This is that video. In fact, it pertains to more than just that. It includes the 520 and the 920, and it might even include the Q500. Pretty much anything that flies with a unique controller will want to see this. Actually, you'll want to see what's inside here. Stick around.
Steady Drive.
Flying multi-rotors with camera attached inevitably leads us to want to have more control, better control, more consistent, so that we can fly our aircraft smoother and thus give us better, more cinematic video. To achieve these goals, oftentimes we use the tools provided to us by the manufacturer. In fact, if you go back and look at all my videos, they're all about the achieving of these goals. One in particular was about cruise control with the Typhoon H. Now, the Typhoon H was special in that it was the only aircraft unique made that had the ability to have cruise control. By hitting the trim pad, we actually could set up forward movement or sideways movement or a combination of both, which was a little awkward. But it would then take off at that speed, hands off, and allow you to operate camera control or whatever else you wanted. And for this reason, I often said this is my go-to tool for cinematic shooting. It was, in fact, that. However, it did have its limitations. And one of the most severe limitations it had was you could not correct its course once it started, not smoothly and not in a way that would yield cinematic video. For instance, if you took off and you were flying in a direct line down a street, and let's say you wanted to follow it around a corner, if you added rudder in order to sort of initiate an arcing turn, the aircraft would yaw but continue in that same direction, so it never really would be able to correct smoothly. It would always yaw to about 15 degrees and then it would hit and fly off in this new path, and it always had that kind of jerky motion. So it was never really a cinematic tool except for accepting the direction it's going to go and then changing your altitude for a crane shot. And for that it did very well. But I wanted more, and so last summer I designed the Steady Drive because I wanted all the capability of the cruise control, but I wanted to add in the rest of the functionality of the other flight controls to yield more cinematic video.
About Steady Drive.
The Steady Drive is a mechanical tool that has an adjustable slider and is made from carbon fiber. It works by placing the top portion of the stick onto the adjuster. You can vary the tension of the slider by the amount of pressure from tightening. The Steady Drive can be rotated to any position, and with medium tension, you can even make speed adjustments on the fly. You can also select the position that you want and fully tighten the adjuster to lock in the exact position you want. Now, in all fairness to the Steady Drive, I chose not to call it cruise control because one thing I found with working with this, and like I said, I've had this for about 10 months, there is so much more this can do than cruise control. When the Plus came out and didn't have cruise control, it opened up a whole new world because unlike the Typhoon H Plus, the control around center is so minute, it is so perfect that the Typhoon H Plus could do things the Typhoon H could never do. That doesn't mean the Typhoon H won't benefit from this, but the slow speed stuff around center is far more delicate with the H Plus. For instance, you can set it up at a speed that's about half of walking speed or even slower and do a hyperlapse with photographs. You can set this, typically I'll set it in one position and I'll put it on the stick starting in angle mode, slow rate, and it'll be just like a medium fast walk. I can then dial in the rate the rate curve, bring it up, and bring it into a pretty good movement. But then I can also switch gears and go into sport mode and kick up to that next highest level. And it does all this in a fashion that you're going to find. You're going to work with this for 3 months and you're going to go, oh, I actually want it this way or this way. There's so many different uses. I am still learning how to use this. And in that respect, I will say that the Steady Drive is something I would recommend for experienced pilots. I'm not saying if you're a novice you can't use it, you can. But there's some responsibility that comes along with it. Obviously, if you lock this thing onto your cruise control in sport mode and fly into a tree, you've got to be aware that you've got to be able to pull this off. So it's no different than any other flight mode, whereas once it's started, moving the sticks doesn't stop it. You have to stop it by pausing it or flipping it out of the mode. Same with the Steady Drive. When it's on there and you're flying, you need to know it's on there and that you need to pull it off to stop it. It's just a routine that you have to learn. And so if you're a new pilot, this kind of adds to the workload. And so I would just caution those that are not experienced pilots to be careful using this, especially at the higher speeds. However, all that said, once you learn to fly this thing, not only is it a great tool for photography and videography that gets amazing shots, I've done things with this I could never do with cruise control. It frees up your hands to work with the cameras in a way that now the cinematic look of things like tilting at such a slow pace that you don't even see it. I've done point of interests around me manually that are far greater than the standard point of interest that's in the flight modes. It is so precise, I can put this on and just come flying by and then add in the rudder control and precisely at a close range keep the target in sight. Having said that, there's one other piece of the puzzle that we need to keep in mind. If you look at a Typhoon H, let me get this camera off here. When you look at a Typhoon H, this is the nose, the tail, the left and the right. When it's flying forward, when it pitches to go forward, it has two motors in the pitch forward, two motors in the pitch aft. So forward speeds and aft speeds with the cruise control are different. So in other words, when you dial this around to the side and you're going from forward speed and then it starts adding in lateral speed, the lateral speed is not as fast because imagine now forward. So now when you're going sideways in either direction, the pitch difference is lessened. And this difference between forward speed and horizontal speed changes the higher the stick rate is. So again, it's all that experimentation. You're going to find at lower stick rates, when you begin to rotate and change direction, the amount of speed that it goes in that direction lessens quite a bit, whereas once you're in the higher ranges, you can do this. Now, earlier I was talking about following on a road. What Steady Drive allows me to do is I can literally set this up. I can go into global pan mode, put my camera to the front, put Steady Drive on, flying straight ahead. And now let's say I need to correct left or right. But I don't want the camera, like when you rudder a little bit, the camera lags behind that and then follows. So if you're following down a road and you want to keep the camera on that subject, now all you do is put the pan down here, put Steady Drive on, go down the road. Now, with a moderate stick input, if you notice that you're veering left or right, you can rudder now, and now the camera will stay locked ahead, but you can also just move the aircraft over to the left. Just move it to the left or move it to the right. You have two controls here to control this aircraft, especially for straight flying. There is nothing that matches this, and you can get good at it. Like I said, though, it's a learning process. I'm still finding so many things I can do with this. Here I am 10 months into this. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I think our challenge as photographers or videographers is to use the correct tools along with the correct techniques to get the best results we can. And in that respect, we've only begun to scratch the surface with what you can do with the ST-16 and a Steady Drive. My next video is going to go in depth and look at some of the uses of very slow tilts and pans and things to get more cinematic video. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. There's got to be a button down there somewhere to do that. All the things that I show, there's links in the description for it. The Steady Drive should be live at Copperdawg.com by the time this video is up. If not, it'll be shortly thereafter. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.